All right, welcome to the first official episode of doing this thing, CSS Grids with Zurb Foundation framework. Okay, so as you may remember, we are doing the same wireframe layout every video in this series. They're all the same, and the reason we're doing them the same is so that you can have a controlled perspective of all of them. How do they attack the same problem every time, right? So the wireframe looks like this. And you'll be seeing me create this and referring to it throughout the video. The first video, I would like to accomplish getting done the heading, the site name and everything up there, and then the navigation. In the second video, I'd like to do the first column, another video for the middle column, and a last video for I'm looking at it right here, that's what I'm looking at. Last video for the third column and the footer. If we can get all those done, that'd be awesome. And then I want to to verbalize a summary, my takeaways for you guys. And that will be a single video at the end of the series called the summary video or something like that. We haven't made it yet, so I don't really know. You know how that goes. YouTube, whatevs. So this will be video 1. We're gonna do the header and the navigation. Let's code. Now you'll remember in the last video we used Jade HTML pre-processing language. If we didn't use this, I think I would probably go insane by the amount of nesting that's required in these types of frameworks. So we're definitely going to stick with that. And I have a few tabs open here. I have the foundation documentation right here, which if you're going to use a new framework, you got to have the docs. And then I also have the docs for the foundation font. Okay, so there's a few icons I want to use while we go through this, and so I downloaded their font. So the first few lines that I have already set up, you have the doc type HTML. This is my HTML tag, and the head. Inside the head, I have the title, foundation grid. A few meta. This is going to declare the character set, and this is going to declare the just make sure it's mobile when it's rendered on a mobile device, that it's actually one-to-one instead of scaling down the whole large scale site. It'll be responsive this way with this meta tag, but you guys already know that. And then we have 3 links. The first one is to the foundation CSS on a CDN somewhere. So I haven't downloaded a foundation locally, which I probably should do. And the next one is the foundation fonts on a CDN. Again, I haven't downloaded them locally. But the next one is local. This is my style sheet. This is what I'll be using to kind of nudge things around or fix any problems I run into in a case. Ideally, I would like to use this style sheet as few times as possible, because I'm really testing out foundation for all it's worth, if possible. I think the one that we used with Bootstrap was like 12 lines long. It wasn't very long. There's like 5, I think, styles in it. Hopefully we can keep it down that way with foundation. Looking at this layout, I see that we have a grid, and in the first row of the grid is going to be the site logo, the site title here, and the kind of navigation and kind of sign up, not navigation, but like kind of top nav, like sign up for the newsletter, follow our RSS, kind of like, important stuff, but not in your face stuff. So let's get started. The first thing we got to do, now here's a big difference between Foundation and Bootstrap. In Bootstrap, you rely on a class of container to contain all your rows. In Foundation, you don't. You just say row, and then you're off to the races. So I'm start with a row, and I'm going to look at that first column. Then I'm going to stick that site name title in, and the way that you declare columns inside of Foundation is a little bit different as well than Bootstrap. And I think, because I've built all this already in preparation to get used to it, so I wouldn't have to spend so much of your time going, when I look at the docs. But I kind of like the way that they do the naming of the different things, and in this case, the way that they do the column. So every column actually needs 2 classes. The first one is just column. And you can put an S on there. They use both. and it's just semantics really, if you want to do column or columns. But I like column because it's one character shorter, and I'm all about brevity. You can't tell that because I talk too much, but I secretly am. So after you've labeled this div column, you put a class of column on it, you want to put a class of, you want to say how many units or how many columns wide this column is, right? Maybe that's why columns makes more sense, because you're actually saying how many columns. Let's do that. Now, whatever. So you're going to decide on the number of columns, and then you're going to decide what device you want that many number of columns shown on, right? Let me just show you. So you want to start small because Foundation is definitely mobile first, and they make a big deal about that. So small, I want to say that out of 12, that this will take up about 4 rows, right? About a third of the width. And that would mean that the rest of this has to be column small 8, because 4 and 8 is 12, right? In that first column, I'm just going to make it H1, and I'll put site name, right? Site name. And we'll save it, and we'll see it magically rendered. Oh, and by the way, I'm using CodeKit to do the compiling. It's just easy, especially for these kind of one-off, one-page little dillies right here. So keep that in your mind as we talk. The next one we're going to do is the next area here, which is going to be this newsletter link and the RSS link, and then an actual form element to do a sign up for a newsletter. Okay, so there is a kind of a component called doop inline list, and I think we used a similar one when we did the Bootstrap version of it. But in fact, if I'm going to be honest, I tried something else. I tried breadcrumbs earlier, and breadcrumbs comes with this weird like box around it that I didn't realize. So when I did this last night in preparation for this video, I used breadcrumbs. Don't use breadcrumbs. That is silly beans. So we wanted to use inline lists, and it's pretty simple. It's just a UL with a bunch of LIs in it, and then to make it inline, you just write inline list. So it'll be like ul.inline list, and then a few of these guys. And how many we got? Maybe like a few of them. Now normally in Jade, I would say to get the nested HTML element, I would say I'll put an anchor in it like that, and then write class fi, because this is how you do the fonts in Foundation. You write fi Foundation icon, and then the actual icon. And I'm going to use the mail. I think it's just called mail, fl-mail. And then, since it's an anchor, I need to put a href, or else it'll look silly and weird sometimes. And then newsletter. Now you see how I'm nesting down, and whatever, that's fine. But to take up less space, if it's just as simple as every one of them has an li and an anchor, an easy way to take up less lines is just to put like this colon and then the next tag name like that. So it's quite nice. And I'll do that again down here. Actually, let's render and see what we got. Did we get that icon right? Yeah. Okay, so it's a little mail thing, and it says newsletter. Newsletter? Yeah, I guess newsletter. Okay. Anchor.fi RSS? I hope that's right. Href. And then RSS. Now you see how there's no space right here between the newsletter and the icon? That space that I put between the anchor and the word newsletter is to denote that that's the end of the tag. So you actually have to put 2 spaces behind there if you want to have like a character space between the two. And that's what's recommended in font icons all the time, is to put an empty space inside of the tag. And so you do that by having 2 spaces after the tag if you're using Jade. If you're not using Jade, you just put the tag and then a space and then write out the label or whatever. The next thing you want to do is have just have a pipe, because that's right there. And then in here, this next bit looks like a form. So let's go to our documents and look at forms. Foundation does do forms a little bit. I feel like Bootstrap did them a little bit more though. And the form we want to look at is kind of like this one right here. It's like connected. So the way that you have this connected form in Foundation is you put them inside of a grid, and then if you write a collapse as an extra class name on the grid row, it will take away all the paddings on the columns that are inside of that grid row. So it'll cinch up tighter the input field and the submit button. So I'm going to make a new LI, and then inside of him I'll put a form, and that form is going to be the row, right? So dot row. And then I want to tell like I said, I want to collapse that row. And then the children are going to be those columns. So I'm going to say column dot small, and there's going to be 3 columns in this, hopefully this last little bit, which is just this this form, right? It's going to be the label, and it's going to be the field and the submit button. So the first one is going to be the label, and I'll say out of 12 columns, I'll give you 4 columns. Can I say 4? Okay. And then the second one, let me just copy and paste these. The second one is going to be the input, going to be 6 columns, and then the last one will be just the submit button, will be 2 columns. And we'll just keep on nesting here. So label, and then the text from the label. So look, I don't know what language this is. I think it's like something Latin or Greek or something. But let's pretend that's a word. And then inside of the 6, we want to have, so this is a form already. Let's put the input. And then we want to say type equals text. And then this last one is going to be a submit button. And the way you do that in Foundation, I'm looking at the docs right here. I want it to be like this. So it's going to be an anchor with a class of button. So a button and a class of postfix. I don't know what postfix does. Oh, I know what postfix does. Postfix makes it wide and centers it. See how this button is like wide and centered and stuff? Yeah, let's do some experiment. Let's not put postfix on it, and then let's say put postfix on it and see, because we're experimenting, because we're just doing this stuff right now. Let's do it. A button go, but we need a href on that button because it's an anchor. And that should be good. Let's take a look-see. Oh my goodness. That all kind of looks good until you get right here. This form's pretty big. Why is there so much? Let's put postfix. Huh. I don't know what postfix does. Let's figure out what postfix does. See, one of the things you want to keep in mind about when you're using these frameworks is that they're going to teach you a lot of good things. You know what I mean? Like, if these are good enough to be proper frameworks, then they're good enough to discover, like tear them apart and learn why they are so successful and so popular. So let's look up postfix. Postfix here says postfix button removes all the paddings and aligns it to the center. That's interesting. It makes it a display block, which is why it needed to be in the grid. And index 2. I wonder if I take the postfix off of this one, will it go wonky like our other one did? Yeah. So I guess the main thing is it changes, let me refresh here. I'm noticing right here it changes the height, but that's not going to be it. Oh, the line height. Yeah. Interesting. So postfix is what kind of just matches it up to that thing. I wonder why they call it postfix. That's a really strange thing. Okay, and now when I'm looking at the way that these have worked out, I'm seeing that we have a grid of 8 units here, and then the inline list is big, but each of these list items don't take up the full size. See, there's like this bunch of empty area right here. So, and I'd rather have these elements kind of scooted off to the right of the grid, obviously aligned to the right of the layout. So I'm gonna just here where we're at inline list, I'll say right. And that should float everything, all the children right. There we go. That floated all the children right. But we're still like stuck on the top of the thing right there. So I still want to push those actions down a little bit. So I'll put a class on the column, not the column, just the inline list, and say class of top actions. So I'll go into my Sass and I'll say top actions, margin top, 20 pixels. Great, that looks good, except for, see how the form is misaligned to the label? There's a way that Foundation can fix that. Let me see here. Here we are. The label, if you put in line on the label, it will kind of sync it up to the height, the line height of the form. So let's try that. And the label dot inline. Okay, that did work. But the problem is that it's now out of sync with the rest of the line there. We want them all to be the same. So that's no good. Maybe, I don't know what to do. It just kind of worked in Bootstrap. I mean, if I was designing this without using a framework, it would be easy just to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I'll just tuck this up under a little bit more. But I'm not sure if there's a Foundation kind of method of going through that. I think I'm just going to leave it. Let's just move on. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is concern ourselves with the navigation here. Okay. So let's look at our options for navigation inside of Foundation. Foundation, navigation. Okay, we have an off navigation, a top bar, which involves JavaScript because it potentially just sticks to the top like that. But I don't want it to be this big solid block. It doesn't really look that great either. And then what else we got? Icon bar. It's more like a mobile kind of approach. Oh, we can go vertical. I mean, that's cool, but it's not what I'm looking for, right? Let's continue to look. Side nav. I don't know. Magellan sticky nav. Magellan. That's kind of nice. But I don't want the JavaScript though. I think I would accept this as the navigation. So here's what we want. Let's try it out. We're going to go into our index.jade and we're going to create a new row. And then in that row, I'll say column small 12. I want this to go across the whole thing no matter the size. And then the navigation will look something like this. They want me to do a DL and then call it subnav. And then a DD, which is definition data, right? So this is a definition list, if that wasn't clear. You probably have used ULs a lot, which are unordered lists. You may have even used OLs, which are ordered list, but the kind of like redheaded stepchild of the list family are the definition lists, the DLs, the DDs, and the DTs, right? Definition list, DL. Definition term, DT. Definition data, DD. And they're using definition lists here to form the structure for this navigation, subnav. So let's see if it works for us. DD, and we've got these data types in in Foundation, and this is more for the JavaScript way of thinking, and I hope that it can work without doing the stickiness. I don't want the stickiness, I just want the style of it. So there's an anchor tag inside of the DD, the definition data, and it has a href. I want my, this to be the home. And there should be a few of these. Home. It's about comics and movies. This is an entertainment site. Concerts and maybe like YouTube. Why not? Let's take a look at how that looks. Ooh, what did I do wrong? I want a proper like across the top, man. What's going on? Sub-nav. It's giving me these pills. I thought they were going to be in a gray box. The other example had them in a gray box. This is a gray box. Why don't I get a gray box? I want the gray box. Add a title and add active. Active star. Definitions. Why don't I get a gray box? Why do you get a gray box and I don't get a gray box? So now I'm opening the inspector to see like what gave them the gray box. Looks like sub-nav gives you a background color. Why does my sub-nav not give me a background color? Is my sub-nav background color being overwritten by something? Sub-nav. Is this like a newer version of Foundation maybe? And they didn't update the docs yet? That could be possible. Kind of bummed because I wanted that gray. Well, I will put it on there myself. Sub-nav background color F2. That's what I wanted. It'll need some more padding, of course. Padding 0.5 m. And that's pretty good. 0 m for the right and the left. Yeah, okay. I guess that's... I kind of wanted that, I guess. That'll do. It fits a little weird, right? Like, what is this inspect element? Why do I have such a big column here? Oh, my lifeness. Oh, this form here is like, has a lot of margin below it. These inputs have margin on the bottom, 1 rem. It's kind of a lot. I get it though. I get why you would do that by default, but it's kind of messing up my shiz right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to that top actions, because I already have a style for that, and say margin bottom -30 pixels. Cheating. All right, now that's the end of the video. So please watch the next video, because in the next video I'm going to do the first column, and that's going to be super exciting. I have a plan for you guys, and you're going to love it. So see you then.